What a day. I tapped into some very old grief today. Let myself process a little, so that was really good, I guess finally became the version of myself that could handle that grief. And it was very old, like I was 9 years old when my father died. So that was the grief, it was there. It was back then. I guess that's 40 years ago. 40-year-old grief. And, given my life experiences and what was going on in my life during that time, it's understandable that I couldn't grieve. Because really there was just circumstances. It all makes perfect sense, whatever. This video isn't about like revisiting that right now, and I actually didn't even think I would be talking about that right now. But there were like a series of things that I had to grieve, and like the final thing I think came around to my father, like as I got layers and deeper. But before I got there, it was people, even just relationships that I had with people in my life. I was just feeling some grief over the loss of people I care about. And, some of these people are still alive. So that was weird, And then just now I was looking for a poem that I wrote, because I was going to use it for my project. And I searched it in my email, but I didn't come up with the poem. I got this email instead, and I'm going to read it, at least a big chunk of it, because I don't know, I just feel like it's really good. I feel like I'm meant to share it. So here we go. And I did email this to my ex about 6 years ago, apparently after we had broken up. I don't know if it was after we broke up. Oh, we were not quite done. We were not quite done. He was still keeping me sort of in his life, I guess, as a friend that he still had sex with, and that who we knew still loved him. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, it would still be about 2 more months until I ended things for good, after this email. But I thought this was pretty good, so let me share it, okay? It says, "What a year. Thanks for the memories and the lessons. You evoke strong feelings in me, for better or for worse. I'm sorry for always being in a space of needing you to respond in a certain way to me, and I am sorry that caused me to beg for your attention and to try to manipulate your devotion. I just could not accept the lack of obsession, and so I fought all the facts and tried to change them around. I know it sounds silly that I wanted you to be obsessed with me, but I did. I think what I have learned is some of my wishes were built on fantasy that was used to avoid reality. I learned that not all fantasy makes a good reality. It makes a lot more sense to just be a friend to someone and appreciate them for who and how they actually are. I was always wishing I could do the thing that would make you have that burning passion for me that I felt for you. I'm also very sorry for the enormous amount of emotional manipulation tactics I used with you over the years. and most recently when I shared your spiked graph, which I did out of my own frustration for reality not making sense to me. I think it was an astrological chart that I showed him to try to evoke fear in him. It was really a low tactic, but that's what that means. Okay, moving on. It seemed to me that your specialty in life was what I needed, and that you needed my specialty. And the way I read the charts, meaning the astrology charts, made me feel like I was missing the other part of my meant-to-be team. And I was angry and worried about that. But even so, I think it was wrong of me to try and coerce you into following a soul plan that you didn't choose for yourself with your free will. Your free will is important and admirable, and I'm sorry to try and influence it using fear, while pretending that it is okay to do that to someone I love. Inspiration is the way I should have done what I was trying to do. I was just acting out of my own fear, though, and I am sorry for that. I really did fall deeper and harder when I learned of the potential I saw for us. I was feeling so mad at life when I realized you just did not want to invest in that garden. I did feel it was because I was being mistreated, and I ignored the way I was also mistreating you. God, I was so offended and hurt and deflated, realizing that something so beautifully shown to me in the charts was just not happening because it was not worthwhile or interesting to you. And I took such deep offense. I wondered painfully, how could it be that you would look to other women and not honor me? It was a pain that I could not bear and still haunts me to this day. You did not recognize me as your true love. You treated me like an option, and I really didn't understand why life would be that way. It seemed like the cruelest joke one could play. It made the world so uninteresting to me. The roller coaster of the past year has not been boring at all, and I am glad to be off that ride, but also thankful for the experience. All of that experience was a tool to help me see what I need to heal inside me, including living in fantasy and using emotional manipulation to influence others for my own agenda. I don't want to do either of those things anymore, ever. I do appreciate you so much. Even the hard lessons of realizing that just my strong desire is not going to make someone loyal to me. I learned that people-pleasing alone will never earn me the respect I deserve or the love I return, and that someone who does not feel it for me just doesn't. I learned that real love does not need reciprocation. It is who I am, not depending on who you are. Who you choose to be determines only the distance between us. And you do keep plenty of distance between us. You always have. The more close I want it to be, the more you run from me. I learned that if I want loyalty, it has to be given freely, not begged for. And that really, loyalty is something I can give to myself. By not accepting being treated as an option or not worthwhile. It is the hardest pill I ever had to swallow, and it went down hard, and I kept coughing it back up, trying to pretend it was not true, trying to change the reality, and getting angry at you for not wanting to make me feel safe with your loyalty. I learned that no matter how many tantrums I take, it will not make the one I love me. or pay attention to me, or be what I want them to be. Just like it didn't when I was a young girl begging for my parents' attention. And just like when my parents did it, I know it isn't personal. It isn't because I'm not worthy of it. It is just because the ones I needed attention from were too much in their own way of coping to notice my need as valid. And perhaps likewise, no matter how much you rebel against my wishes, it will never make you feel free. Maybe I was a tool to allow you to experience that reality. I think I did need to know and learn that the love I need has always been inside me, and my usefulness can also be in giving it just to me. Likewise, perhaps your soul reaps lessons by realizing your freedom is in the way you think when you don't restrict yourself, and when you have nothing to prove, and no one can take that from you. These are like useful keys to be used to set ourselves free from patterns we were prisoners to. It was a rough year. Those patterns died hard. My fairy tale died 1,000 deaths, and my fear nearly killed us both while it kept me clinging to a lie. I kept giving you my power, and I still kept doing that until very recently. And you keep giving it back to me, perfectly. Thank you. Really. The truth isn't so bad. You are a human, and so am I, and water seeks its own level. The truth is, we are just who we are, both learning and living the best we can. The truth hurts, but at least it is the truth. There is nothing more to find out, no more digging underneath when I finally choose to accept the reality. You did not choose me. You did not see my value as something you could not live without. You did not want to nurture the garden I wanted to build together. You did not find me safe and worth investing in, especially not while I raged on you. I was living in a fantasy, thinking I needed you to be passionate about me. And maybe your fantasy was something like thinking your worth comes from rescuing me. The truth is, your worth is not in having to be the hero to any less fortunate soul. Your worth is inherent and nothing you could ever earn. You are a light, and your mere existence is a blessing to this world, including every mistake, fear, error, or limiting pattern you have lived out. You cannot get it wrong. You are here to live and experience life. The truth is, I can be passionate about me, and life, and healing, and growth, and learning, even if no one else is doing it with me. I know this, because I am this. I had no right to say you were wrong. I had only avoided my own responsibility when I did that. If I wanted to be treated different, it was my responsibility to take care of myself, and instead I stayed needing you and resenting you for it. I am thankful for the lesson. Life is ups and downs, and getting it wrong and learning to do it right. It is forgiving and messy and boring and hard and emotionally overwhelming and physically straining and overall rewarding when you look for our blessings. When we get to know and love ourselves, life feels worthwhile. When we give from our overflowing cup, we never feel drained. We both needed time to learn to fill up our own cup. while learning to overcome our own personal version of hell. Alone for me, and no freedom for you. I have many blessings, and many of them are because of you. So even if in the end I never get the truthful conversation I thought I needed and deserve, my compassion and understanding for someone inexperienced in dealing with difficult conversations that create intimacy allows me to still be a friend to you. I still see the value in you. I still feel like I love you. I still care about you very much. I enjoy being in your company, not just because you make me feel safe, but more because you are such a strong presence, a vault, an untapped wealth of wisdom that I always want to delve into. I know I told you I am confused because you don't talk to me like a friend would do, but I guess I realize too that it's just not something you feel a need to do. Or maybe you just don't feel capable, or think it beneath you. In which case, your desire to escape into the wilderness makes sense too, and might be exactly the honesty I need from you. So I just read this and I was like, oh. I remember after, like, being in that state, this was honestly where I was at when I wrote this, right? But even after that state, I slipped into like older like buried patterns within me, and spoke to him from those places again. I remember getting pretty angry at him, but I did just let it go. 2 months after this, I let it go for good, and I stopped. I just stopped. I just realized that it was, futile. I think around this time was when he actually ended up telling me that he knew that no one would ever love him as much as I loved him. But like he was still not choosing to invest in a relationship with me. So that's kind of where we parted ways. And that was a big, bold move for me at the time because, like I said in that letter, I was really dependent on him, trying to feel safe in the world and not really taking full responsibility for myself in that, I wanted to have someone to call if there was like something bad that happened. Like I didn't trust myself to handle it. These days I do trust myself, and you know, if him being in my life meant that I never got to this version of me, that would have been a crime. You know, even though I can still obviously just remember the pain of losing that relationship in my life. It's him. I don't know. I don't want to be treated like that ever again. But I don't know. I was just always impressed with him. But he wasn't honest with me. He didn't treat me very well overall. And this isn't like a nostalgia, This is just like I guess, allowing myself to let go of any grief. And I feel like what I've learned about grief came from a meme that I saw years ago. And it was this like depiction of grief as this little ball in a jar. And it showed like over time the jar getting bigger, but the ball stayed in the jar. And the depiction was supposed to show how grief stays with us, but we become the version of ourselves that can handle it, so that we can fit other things in the jar besides just the grief, which is taking up the whole first jar. So I have filled my jar, but this is just me like poking at that grief again to just see what's still there, I guess, It's been 1 week since you looked at me. It's been in 5.5 years. 5.5 years. And I've been single since then. And I have not dated since then, but I think I went on one first date. Yeah, that was not a great time. Um, I mean, there were high standards, right? Like the way that I saw that man was like, just, you know, he had a lot of the things that I would want in a man. Um, but I think missing the most important thing that you want in a partner, which is that they actually like you enough to want to spend time with you, you know. Maybe want to build and grow something together, you know. Anyways, I really liked the letter. I liked reading it, and who knows if he ever even read it, because I think that if things were too long, he probably wouldn't even have read it, you know. So that was a letter more for me. And even though after that time that I wrote that, like I slipped into some, you know, programmings where I like spewed out or whatever in anger at him. You know, things like when I realized I was being treated this way, or when I realized the truth of that matter. Um, because sometimes you have to digest and process things in layers. You can't let yourself see it all at once, right? So I would like become aware of something from a different angle and be like, oh my gosh, you know, and maybe like, you know, tell him what I thought of how awful he was. But I think the authentic version of me knows all the other stuff, right? I really am thankful for the lessons, and I really wouldn't have wanted to miss out on being this version of myself. And I do totally see the codependency, the where I was like dependent on him to, you know, make me feel safe, but at the same time he could never make me feel safe emotionally. Oh, if you see, this is not dirt, it's I burnt myself. Emotionally I didn't feel safe, which is why I could never rest in things with him. But physically and practically I felt very safe. You know, I'm a person whose father did die when she was 9, so I never had that, you know. So I think that's why that was so important to me, and that's why I was willing to kind of forgo a lot of other things as well, because if father is missing from your life, you're not getting emotionally, you don't feel emotionally safe. And if father is missing from your life, you're not getting the protection that a father gives. So therefore, you know, there's no like gateway that suitors have to pass through, right? And qualify in with. But then it was easy for me to kind of cling on to his practical ways and his ability to keep his shit together, basically, which was something that I really didn't have in my life before that time. I had, yeah, I really didn't have it because I was surrounded by people who were still in chaos, and I was trying to find my way out of my own. He taught me like that slow and steady is a good way to get things done. That there's a solution, you just have to be willing to like look for it and take the steps. And sometimes there's a lot of steps, but if you follow through, you complete stuff, you know. And I think I felt worth more because I viewed him as worth more. And the only reason I really viewed him that way is just because, you know, he had achieved more in the 3D than I ever had. You know, I had just been living in trauma and this and that. But now I think about it totally different. Like, I wouldn't actually qualify somebody as better than me because of what they have achieved in the 3D at all. Like, I think what I have achieved for myself is like what I'm meant to achieve for myself, right? Like I feel pretty happy about the time I've spent investing in me for this inner peace that I've cultivated, and clearing away all of that trauma and tendency to fall prey to chaos and feel unable to take responsibility for myself and feel too fearful about what could happen in life to make any moves or to just feel comfortable for a minute. I've come a long way. So, I have never seen him since we split up, and I thought that was very interesting since we live in a small town. I don't know if he still lives in this town or not. But I also found it interesting that the building that I live in is a building that I lived in with him 10 years ago. And I thought, wow, isn't that weird? It's like full circle, but I was in a different apartment when I lived here with him. And I was just sort of beginning on this spiritual journey. And now I'm much more established in just life, I would say. You know? Like, at that time, I was just about to learn the trek that I had ahead of me for clearing out my karmic patterns, which were like the things in my shadow that were keeping me living in chaos and feeling unsafe in the world and unable to take responsibility and so on and so forth. And feeling lonely and willing to put on rose-colored glasses and willing to forego like real connection. And, you know, all those parts of me had to be like uprooted and looked at, and I had to clear up all those misunderstandings, clear those karmic patterns, you know, for myself so that I could get to here. And I don't know that I would have even gone on the journey if it weren't for him, because he was there for half of this time. It's 10 years. Like, he was there for the first half of it. And I didn't have what it took at that time to invest in me yet. So he was the reason that I did it. You know? Like, wanting to be with him was the reason I kept going, clearing my programs, looking at my shadow, learning what I had to learn. And it's kind of like, it's why I sometimes say, use whatever means of transportation you have to get to where you're going. It's like, that was my means of transportation because I wasn't motivated by self-love or individuation. I was motivated by wanting a relationship with him. And if I hadn't had that to drive me, how would I have even gotten here? Who knows? So I have found relationships, even the unsuccessful ones, I have found them to be a roadmap to my healing. And a big part of that is that I understood the concept of the 7 Essene mirrors. There is a wonderful video on YouTube by Greg Braden called the 7 Essene mirrors. If you got some time, he's a storyteller, if you can learn that way. It's kind of an old video. You might be like, why am I watching this VHS tape from the 90s? It was worth it because he talks about the ancient knowledge passed down from the Essenes about the 7 ways other people are reflecting us back to us. And that knowledge is what I used within the context of that relationship to heal my karmic patterns, to release myself from the patterns that were making me act in rageful ways, making me act needy, making me do all those things that I referenced in the letter. You know? And if instead I was just finger pointing, blaming him, and acting like the victim, I wouldn't have gotten anywhere. You know? I might have still been in that. And to me, it felt like hell a lot of the time. Not because he's a terrible, evil person, but because his coping mechanisms didn't allow him to invest in a relationship with me. Maybe not anyone, you know? But that wasn't even something I would look at back then. Anyway, I'm so thankful for all of the experiences that I've had with all of the people, and even the ones that I've grieved and feel like I missed out on something by our relationship ending, you know? I'm talking about friendships and potential, you know, soulmates and things like that I've encountered along the way. I am so thankful for all the experiences, and, you know, because finding out that you have someone who's a soulmate but they don't recognize you, and that you can feel it with everything inside you because you've been like open to spirit for years, and like you just know, and they don't know. I mean, that's humbling. That's an experience, right? That shows me where in me, like what am I doing? Like kind of similar to what I was doing when I referenced in that letter about just like making up my own story about how things should be. It's like, yeah, life had to teach me that's not what this is, at least not for me. You know, maybe some people are having that experience, but for me, I'm being shown that in the position I've taken as devoting myself to God, that, you know, I will have to forego some of those things that my ego thinks that we should participate in or continue in, or that we're entitled to, or that we can expect, you know. And really, it's just cleansing me down, down, down to this more authentic version of me. And I've enjoyed getting to know her.